in silence for the victims and for their families in such a horrific time in our history of our wonderful country. So, just a little brief moment before we get into business. All right, guys. So, what we're doing today, we are going to be ranking the tracks. This is a segment we really like to do here. And today, we chose to do the Beatles Rubber Soul, released in 1965. Before we get into that, let's introduce the panel. How's it going, Metal Mike?
It's going good, brother. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor as always.
Thank you for being here. And on Friday nights, you can hear Metal Mike on Cranium on his own Metal Mike Metal Show on Cranium from 8 p.m. to midnight. Is that correct, Mike?
8 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Central.
And Cranium is a free app with a free radio
station. It's a radio. Yeah, it's an online radio station. You can find us on your phone or PC, laptop. We have a chat room. It's pretty cool, man. Like, it's different from TMS. TMS was strictly a metal station. With Cranium, the owner, the guy who runs it, who used to be part of TMS years ago, Jeff, it's art for the ears and mind. So we got all kinds of shows that play all kinds of music, you know. I mean, I do primarily a hard rock and heavy metal show, but every once in a while, that's what's kind of cool. I can throw out, you know, something. I'll even do a little intro with John Cleese laughing hysterically and going, and now for something completely different. And then it'll just, you know, be something that's not really metal, but still awesome, at least to my ears. Right. So, and the listeners seem to like it. And we're back on with the plug. Bushy finally got his internet.
Oh, finally.
Yeah. We just did we've got like 3 episodes in the can already. We've already released one, which was Welcome Back.
Yeah.
And then we did our Full Force Football, which is basically our predictions of how we think the season's going to play out. And then we did which is really eerie because I just saw your guys' recent episode, 3 Shots Down.
Yeah.
With the day that music died. We're working on a new thing where, because we try to do like shows within shows, if that makes sense. It's the plug music and more, so it's not always music. Sometimes we'll talk about pop culture and other things. Like when we talk about, you know, geek stuff, we call that the Nerdgasms episode and so forth. And this one's What If, which was inspired, of course, by the old Marvel comic, but it was what if the day the music died never happened. Like, what if they had decided to just freeze their asses on the bus instead?
Yeah.
What would the evolution of rock and roll have been like? I mean, because I think it would have been different, especially with a guy like Buddy Holly, who was getting into production and experimentation and stuff. And then Richie, I mean, he was only 17 years old, man. And he already had 3 or 4 hit records. Like, I think he would have went on to greater things. And I mean, the Big Bopper was already a radio personality, so he wasn't going to go anywhere. It was just so sad what happened. But that hasn't come out yet, but it is in the camp. So we're back.
Thanks for listening to our 3 Shots Down episode. I appreciate that, man. We worked pretty hard on that. On the next one that's going to come out, we're already doing notes for it, but it's going to be a King in the White House. It's going to be when Elvis went to go meet
Nixon. Oh, cool, man.
On the before, the after, and the conclusion of that meeting. Also, joining us for the first time here on Black Spinner Circle. Let's all welcome Mr. Fabio Vargas. Hey, Vegas, right? It's Vegas. Yep. Fabio Vegas. Well, welcome to Black Spinner Circle, sir. Thank you for saying yes, and thank you for accepting the invite. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Enjoyed conversations with you before, Andy, and I love this record, so it'll be fun to dive into.
Yeah, we are really going to dissect the hell out of this album. I cannot wait. And my great co-host Al Horta, who also has a great channel on YouTube called Be Cool or Be Podcast Style, where he posts all of his concerts that he's been to lately. What's your latest episode up there, Al?
What? Jane's Addiction. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and
Nice.
Jane's Addiction and Love and Rockets. I went to go see that. It was a great show. Although I think Perry was pretty fucked up.
Was he really?
Yeah, dude. He seemed a bit off, man. But I mean, I don't know, man. He just went into like these rants and things like that. But luckily, like I don't know, the rest of the band was tight, man. They were killing it, man. But I don't know, Perry seemed a little off, man. And I've been hearing like things like he's been kind of hit and miss lately. So I don't know what's going on with him. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Was Dave Navarro?
But he's always been sort of an odd character anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
he was
so.
always.
Oh yeah,
But he was.
Perry Farrell definitely marches to his own drum beat.
Yeah.
He really does. Was Dave Navarro with him? Because I had heard that.
Yeah,
he was coming back.
yeah, it's the original band.
Yeah.
Dave Navarro was killing it, man. He was kicking ass, and it was good to see him back because I saw them. I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago when they toured with Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
And Dave didn't tour with them at that point, so it was nice to see him back. I've seen Jane's Addiction quite a few times, so I've seen the original band and like without Eric Avery, and it's always been kind of Eric Avery's always been kind of the odd man out. But you know, last time it seemed to be Navarro, and now it's all of them together. But you know, I don't know, man. Perry's just kind of.
Navarro had some undisclosed illness for a while. He was sick.
He was calling it like long-term COVID or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a year-long COVID.
Damn.
But I heard, but then I heard like something like, you know, I was just reading some sort of interview with him where he did a record with Taylor Hawkins or something.
Okay.
And when Taylor died, he kind of withdrew from like music. He didn't want to play, and I think it had something to do with that, man. He just kind of, COVID's kind of like could be like the thing everybody kind of could scapegoat to. You know, I can't do it, man. I got COVID. You know, not to say that you can't get it. It's fake. It's not. I mean, it's real, but you know, I think some people use that as an excuse now for like getting out of things, and you know, I don't know, dude. You know, so maybe he wasn't feeling it. Didn't want to do music for a while.
Yeah,
I heard he got depressed out, or he said he really wasn't in the mood to do music after Taylor died. And supposedly there's some sort of record with them in the can, like you know, like they did a record together. So.
Yeah,
I was just reading that recently, and it seemed to fit the timeline. Like after Taylor died, and
they were pretty tight, weren't they? I mean,
I think so.
Yeah, they were really good friends, from what I understand. Anyway,
and yeah, the way the timeline falls, I'm like, I bet you had something to do more with like Taylor, and he just didn't want to tour, he didn't want to do music or something like that. So, you know, whatever, man.
It's good to have him back, and it's good to have him be playing like.
He looks great. He's playing great. You know.
Yeah.
So I've always liked him as a guitar player. He was always kind of brought a different, you know, Jane's Addiction, like when it came out, it was the midst of like all the hair and spandex, and you know, I thought you know, they brought like something different to the table, and I kind of perked up, you know, because I was into all that stuff. But then I had a friend that like he liked alternative stuff too, and he kind of introduced me to like all sorts of like different. Yeah, he introduced me to like Ministry, Nine Inch Nails before anybody who knew who Nine Inch Nails was. You know, he was into Love and Rockets. They were born out of Bauhaus, that band Bauhaus. Right. That's where Love and Rockets was kind of born out of. So I think it's like two members that were in Bauhaus or something. So I saw like a lot of gothic kind of people there at this concert. It was pretty cool to people watch.
Yeah, I bet. Especially the old gothic that won't give up that.
And then
eyeliner.
And then tomorrow night, I'm going with my 16-year-old daughter. We're going to see Korn tomorrow.
Oh, that's cool.
She's really like into Korn now. She likes Korn. I'm Gojira's with them, so I'm excited to.
Gojira are amazing live.
I've seen them tour with Opeth.
Okay.
They are awesome. I saw them with Mastodon, and Mastodon were great, but Gojira was better. Yeah. They were just mind blowing.
Yeah. Good. So, and the show is like sold out too. The amphitheater I'm going to. So
I seen Korn a few years ago, and they put on a good show.
Yeah, I've seen them quite a few times already.
Yeah,
But my daughter's like really like she's like pretty into them now. So
That's cool.
she's excited to go, and And I'm excited to see Gojira again. I mean, I like Korn too, but Gojira is the shit.
Hell yeah, dude! I love Gojira.
So, I just want to say hi, Fabio, because I never met you before. So what's going on, brother?
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Hope all is well in Vegas there. How's the weather there? Still hot?
Yeah, well, I'm not in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
It's just my name.
I thought that's where you lived.
Nope, just my name. I'm in Indianapolis.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I'm going to Vegas next week, so that'll be fun.
Oh, wow.
Man, I haven't been to Vegas in like 24 years, man. 25 years.
It's been a minute.
Last time I was there was in 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 09 last time, about 15 years maybe. So
Yeah.
after me.
2000. Yeah, 2000 is when I went. So anyway.
You got a good looking cat back there too, I see.
What's that? Oh yeah.
You got a beautiful cat back there.
Thank you. I got two of them and a dog. Yeah,
I got 4.
They come in here during the podcast and they'll be in and out. You'll see them.
So let's hit on to what's spinning, which is what have we been listening to lately? Mike, what have you been spinning lately, man?
Well, besides Rubber Soul, little bit of this and that. Actually, I've been listening to the new Deep Purple album a lot.
Okay.
I really like it too, man. I mean, I think it's the best thing. This new guitar player they got is really giving them a shot in the arm. I think it's the best thing they've done in a long time. I mean, I love Purple, but the last few albums, they weren't horrible, but they didn't really grab me. Right. This new one grabbed me. I've mentioned them before, but Blues Pills, their whole album Birthday came out. They're like a psychedelic blues rock band from Sweden, and they're really cool. And I've been digging them a lot lately. They've got several albums. They've been around for a minute. They're on the Nuclear Blast label. They're really cool, though. And as far as like heavy stuff, I've been listening to Fit for an Autopsy and Orbit Culture a lot, which they're really heavy, but I like them. But they're kind of cool though because they're really, really heavy, but they mix a lot of melodicism in their music too. It's kind of like like I guess melodic death metal.
Oh, okay.
That's your thing. Some people don't really like, and it's weird with me though with death metal. I mean, some of it I like, some of it I don't. But I really am digging those two bands. They're really cool.
Okay, cool, awesome. And what about you, Fabio? What have you been listening to lately?
Well, earlier in the summer, a couple of my favorites from earlier in the summer were obviously the new Sebastian Bach. I think we've talked about that before, and I thought that was a great album from him, as most of them are that he's put out. And the latest album from The Warning, those girls are very good.
Well, good.
And their new album is great. But my favorite, most recent one, I guess, is the new Jack White album. I love that. And that one, he just dropped on us out of nowhere, no advance notice, just surprise release. And I think it's probably the best solo album he's put out, and some of the best stuff since his, mid to late White Stripes years.
Wow.
Really back to his just straight up rock roots there, and blues rock roots, and great guitar playing.
I really like that other band, the Rocketeers.
Yeah,
I really like that stuff too. That's some cool stuff, man.
Yeah, especially that first album was great of theirs.
A few years ago, I went to his record store, which has got a studio in it, and it's in Nashville. When we went to the Rockin' Pod, man, and it was really, really cool. Yeah, I like Jack White. He's cool.
Yeah. I went to the other record plant, Third Man Records, over there in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
The one in Detroit that's got I'm not too sure the one in Nashville actually also has the record plant right there attached to the store, where you can see them pressing vinyl. Because Third Man Records is a functioning record label.
Mm-hmm.
So really good stuff. He's a really, really good down to earth rock and roller. So it's very interesting with you saying that this is his best since his mid White Stripes, because he's done a lot of really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I loved Rack and Tours and some of his other solo stuff, and even the Dead Weather was a great band. But yeah, this, like I said, this one he really went all out, and it straight up rocks. And not only that, but there's some really good hooks in there, like has been missing a little bit from the last couple albums he's put out. But I love them all. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But this one just really, really hits good.
Really grabbed you, man. I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah.
It's just called No Name. There's no title. It's just a plain blue cover.
And he just threw it out there with no announcement, no, just boom, here it is.
Yeah, when he first put it out, he basically gave it away to anybody in his Third Man record stores. Wow. With whatever purchase they bought. They just gave a copy with it, and it didn't even say what it was. There was no print on it, no name, no titles, no song names. It was just a plain blue disc.
Wow.
So people took it home not knowing what the heck it was, and then they started to figure it out, and then he released it then like a week or two later. But
I'll bet you those copies are going to be collector's items.
Oh, yeah, they're going to have to. I saw him once in concert during a festival setting, and it was really cool, man, because he had because they played one song, and then they were having problems with the electrical stuff. So while they were fixing it, he switched it all around and did like a 20-minute acoustic set, just like Right Out of the Blue. And it was fantastic. So, yeah, man, Jack White, I got to check out his new album. I'm a fan of his. Al, what have you been listening to, man?
My wife comes home one day and she's like, "Hey, I got this for you. I saw this in Walmart, so it's called Mullets Rock."
Oh, dude, no way!
It's the 21st anniversary legal edition. No, it's actually a pretty damn cool track listing on here. I mean, it's got like Mississippi Queen. It's got Mountain, Boston, Molly Hatchet, Ted Nugent, Judas Priest, Rick Derringer, Cheap Trick, Quiet Riot, B.O.C., Edgar Winter Group, Kansas, The Hollies, Loverboy, Eddie Money, Toto, REO Speedwagon, Allman Brothers, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Ram Jam, Meatloaf, and Argent. I mean, it's a cool like double album. It's got all like the hits on it and shit like that. You know.
Let me see the album cover again.
Mullets Rock.
That's pure Beavis and Butthead and King.
I know, man. Remember the commercial Freedom Rock? I mean,
I love that commercial. Freedom Rock, dude.
We'll turn it up, man.
Yeah.
But what I've been really spinning though, I'm friends with a band out of Philly. The lead singer, her name is Zuzu Mansour. Her band is called Soraya. This is a 15th anniversary edition of Shed the Skin. And this is kind of, it's cool. She sent me this. They only made 25 copies of like a hand painted like cover. I mean, it's like the regular cover, but then each band member kind of like outlined and did like some cool little artwork on it. And they only did like 25 copies like that. And it's cool. She sent me this, and I want to get her on the show. You know, I've been wanting to get. I think she's busy like doing shows though. But they're out of Philly, and they got a female drummer and it's like the core is like a 3-piece. So she's the vocalist. There's a female drummer, Brianna Sig, and Travis Smith is the bass player. That's the core of the band. Now I think when they tour, they have like a touring guitar player, and I think like a keyboard player too. I think either good or like kind of a plays keyboards and guitar, like second guitar or whatever. But it's cool. She sent me this and she signed it back for me and everything. Hey Al from Zuzu, and cool band. You know, they kind of got like a kind of a little bit of a punk attitude to them. You know, almost like think of like Joan Jett. You know, kind of with that kind of attitude. She really has a great voice. I love her voice, and she's cool. I've seen them up in New Jersey when I lived up there, but I don't know if they really kind of come down here to Florida. If they do, you know, I'll go see them and go hang with her and stuff like that. She's really, really cool chick. So, but Zuzu, I want to get you on a damn show and do an interview with you. So, you know, when you're not busy. So anyway, that's what I've been spinning.
Yeah. What I do is I grab a whole bunch of vinyl, like a month at a time, and then I put it on the shelves over here, and then I start going through them. And I had ran into this. I had pulled this out after he had passed away, probably about 2 months ago. And I've been spinning it. I've always liked his voice and guitar playing. But Dickie Betts and the Great Southern
Oh
and
yeah.
Burning Down. Such a great album. I really love his voice because
Yo, yeah.
I mean, compared to Greg Allman, it's completely different. He's got a smoother tone to his voice, and the dude can play guitar. At this time, I think this was released in the early '80s. No, 1978,
Oh, okay.
where kind of the Allman Brothers were kind of, just not giving 100%. So
I think Greg was off doing like some solo stuff,
yeah,
at that time.
yeah. So
And he was dating Cher too, I think.
yeah, with Cher and all. So well, Dickie Betts did some of his own, and this I've got a couple of his solo albums, but this is the one that I've been spinning. Atlanta's Burning Down. So it's
he sang some of the Allman Brothers' biggest hits, man.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's smooth, man. Really smooth. All
I've
right,
seen Dickie Betts a couple times with Great Southern.
oh yeah.
And yeah, great shows, man. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna miss him, man. I miss going to see the Allman Brothers too, because I used to always go see them when they did their March Madness in New York City. Like they would play like 15 shows in like New York City, man, and that was always an event to go to. It's kind of sucks that they're not around anymore to do that now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, their sons have a band, which is pretty cool. It's called Almond Betts.
yeah, Allman Betts. Yeah, I haven't seen them yet, but I heard that they're good, man.
Oh yeah, I've heard a couple. I think they've released about two albums so far, and they really do carry the torch pretty
Yeah.
well. But I've never seen them. They played not too far from here, but I just couldn't. I wasn't able to make it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Now it's time to get to the point of why we're here. We are going to be ranking the tracks of the 1965 classic Beatles Rubber Soul. So we'll start from the bottom. We'll start from your least favorite to your favorite track. We'll go Mike, Fabio, Al, and myself. Let's get started. Mike, what's in the bottom of your album?
Well, first of all, I want to say when I got into the Beatles originally, it was mostly compilations. I think the first compilation we ever got was like in the 70s. It was rock and roll music, and it was really wild because the cover was like Mylar.
Yeah.
And
I remember the cover to that.
Yeah, and you'd open it up, and it'd have all this like 50s and 60s iconography in it and all this stuff. But it was really, really cool. And it was some of their stuff that was like their early stuff, which was very, power poppy, and then of course the more psychedelic stuff, like Helter Skelter. And so there was that. And then after that, a few years later, we had the compilation albums, the Red Album and the Blue Album. And for the longest time, those were the albums I'd listened to,
Yeah.
It just had all their big hits on it. As I got into them and started taking a deeper dive, Rubber Soul was one of the first albums that I had purchased. And so I love this record. I also think it's this is the album that started album-oriented rock. Some people say it was Sgt. Pepper, but I disagree. I think it starts here, folks.
Definitely.
You get the Rolling Stones Aftermath, which is a great record. And you got everybody, and it inspired so many people on both sides of the pond, really all over the world. Hey, if they can do it and more album-oriented rock, which is something that in today's music world I kind of miss, because in some ways I think things have went back to more singles and it's not much about albums, which is a shame because I'm more of an album guy. I always have been. But in my opinion, this is the album that started that all. This is where the Beatles become, not and no disrespect to the previous songs and albums they recorded before this, because that stuff's great too. I've always felt like the Beatles are incredibly important because to me, they brought rock and roll back and then evolved it. You had that period where after Buddy Holly dies and all that, and Chuck Berry gets in trouble, and and Elvis is tied up with his movie deals, and it almost seemed like rock and roll was a fad, man. It was like, and people were you had shit like Fabian. Come on now. Come on. That's like the Poison of that era. Yeah, I said it. Anyway. Yeah, Bushy, I said it. It just wasn't really real. They were faking the funk, man. You know what I mean? And then the Beatles come along, and my dad, he grew up in the 50s, and he was very much like the person.
Nice.
There you go. Hey, some people love Poison. More power to you, man. But my dad, the first time he heard him and my mom were in the car, they were dating, and he was like, this reminds me of this music I was listening to when I was in high school. It was like a throwback. So they became fans of the Beatles. His little sister, obviously, she was right at that age where the Beatles and the Stones and bands like that were a big deal to her. But yeah, as I said, they brought rock and roll back and they evolved it. And I think the evolution really starts here with this album. That all being said, my 14th least favorite track, which almost pains me to say because, believe it or not, this song is by my favorite Beatle, even though I love them all, and that's Think for Yourself. It's a good song, but it's my least favorite song on the album for me.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean it's not a bad song, but it's just I don't think George had really hit his stride yet. That was coming on the next record.
Yeah, I think that's the one that has the Moog synthesizer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very prominent on that song, which was pretty cool because they had introduced it.
Oh yeah, well I think Ringo. I know on one of the songs Ringo played the Moog. It might have been that song.
Oh wow, yeah.
Let's see. No, he played a Hammond organ, and I'm Looking Through You.
Okay.
Yeah, John played the organ on Think for Yourself.
Yeah, you're right. He did.
Well, man, it's really cool how all four of these guys just moved from instrument to instrument. They really used the studio to their advantage on this one. All right, Fabio, what are you going to start off with? What's your least favorite on this album, if there's such a thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a bad song on the album, so being the least favorite doesn't say anything to put it down by any means.
And
what you said, Andy, you're so right. I mean, this is the both Andy and Mike when you're talking about the turning point here, because not only the album-oriented rock, but they really did use the studio a lot, like nobody had really done before that. It took a long time to make the album. They used all kinds of different instruments. And the other thing that kind of lent to being starting the album-oriented thing is all original material, because I know Help was all original before that, but that was still that's kind of a bridge, I think, between the early years to the era that was starting with Rubber Soul. But prior to that, there's a lot of covers, a lot of blues and R&B standards that they would do. And so this was another big one with all original. But for me, like I said, even though they're all good, I would say probably the weakest song for me is Wait. Kind of an okay coming home type of song. For me, I think the highlight on this is Ringo's like rhythms and the changes he does throughout the song. But it's a cool song, but I'd say Wait would be at the bottom for me on this album.
Al, what are you going to start off with, man?
Yeah, well, Rubber Soul, man, that was like Rubber Soul and Revolver really are kind of my favorite period of the Beatles, man. And like Mike was saying, this is when the Beatles really, I mean, for me, like this is when the experimentation really, really started. They started really, really experimenting in the studio and stuff. It was kind of setting up for the whole, Revolver is just another step towards, what they would do on like Sgt. Pepper. But, they were ever evolving, you know what I mean? I mean, going back, I think the album before this was Help, right?
Yeah.
That's a great album too. But then this one is really to start, like they were starting to get into more of a psychedelic kind of,
It's when they started doing drugs, you could say.
Yeah. I mean, just look at that cover. I mean, this is the remastered. This is the remastered version I got, and I got the. This is actually the 12-track US version. This one. That's why I was asking you what version we're going with, and obviously we're going with the international 14-track version. But so I pulled out the two, and then this is the. This one starts with I've Just Seen a Face, so it has a couple of different songs there that's not on that one. Yeah. So, but it's cool. That's the widely known one. So anyway, my number 14, I'm going with The Word. the Lennon song. It's got like, the cool patented kind of Ringo's like kind of backwards fills on it, and it's cool. And again, like I don't think there's a bad track on this album. It's just we got to rank them. So number 14 is going to be the word for me. That would be the bottom for me. I still love the song though, but that's number 14 for me.
Yeah. I didn't say anything about the other studio version because I didn't think anyone would ask that Al this morning. So which version are we going to do?
Yeah, no, because I have both versions, man. I'm like,
yeah,
I figured it was going to be the one that started with drive my car. So, but yeah.
But I started off with the Beatles with a CD for Rubber Soul. I got it when I was in high school. And then I started really getting deep into vinyl. I was looking for Rubber Soul. And I was in New Orleans before Katrina hit. And there was a record store there at the end of Bourbon Street. It's on a street called Magazine. And I found it, but I was perplexed because the songs were different. So I had asked the guy, I go, what's the deal with this one? And he was telling me that it was the Capital American version. That's why it started off with I've Just Seen a Face, which I love that song. But I went ahead and grabbed it anyway, and then I got that, and then I got this other one later on. But I do dig the American versions too, but it doesn't pale in comparison.
Yeah.
It leaves off a few really big tracks.
Yeah.
Because
really
they were trying. Because here in America, they were still trying to push singles, I think, from it. So they wanted to leave those out separate and replace the album with other tracks.
And what they did is they put those tracks that were missing in Yesterday and Today, is the next one, which is the American version of Revolver. Then when Sgt. Pepper came out, they just did away with all that different versions.
Mm-hmm.
They were just going to be
everything was the same again, right?
Yeah. After that, everything was the same. With that being said, I'm going to start with number 14 with Wait, along with the same thing as Fabio. I really do dig that track, but compared to what's up ahead, I had to put that somewhere. So I started at number 14 for me, Wait. All right, Mike, what's your number 13, man?
The Word. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a bad song. Like I said, every song on here is really, really good. But yeah, it's not. It's what our good friend Ian Wadley would call killer filler. It's not a bad song. It's a good song, but it's not one of my favorites. But like I said, I feel the Beatles are one of those bands. It's almost like there's very few songs where I can go, oh man, that didn't grab me at all. And all the songs on this album grab me. Just some grab me more than others. That's all.
Right. And our great friend Jimmy Schwartz says the U.S. versions were great because they put the singles on the full album. That's true. They did put the singles that were released onto there. But then after that, what else can you do with Beatle compilations? Well, they came out with that great Past Masters where they put all the singles on volume 1 and 2. Dude, that was like genius marketing there to do the Past Masters. That's amazing. All right, Fabio, what's your number 13, man?
My number 13 is You Won't See Me. Another just okay compared to some of the stuff coming up, but one of the few McCartney tracks on here that are talk about his troubled relationship he was having around that time. So
with Jane Asher.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's got a few of those on this album, but so this one, I'll put this at 13. I don't have a lot to say one way or another. It's a good song, but
and her brother Pete still does a show on the Beatles channel on Sirius XM. Pete Asher, who has been a long time Beatle fan. Also, wasn't he in that band Peter and Gordon? Does anyone remember them?
I don't.
Band, and they would do a couple of Beatle covers and a couple of songs that McCartney gave them that the Beatles didn't do. I think their names were Peter and Gordon, and that was Jane Asher's brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. What's going on with you, Al? What's your number 13, man?
I'm gonna go with the Ringo song "What Goes On." It's got that patented. I love Ringo, dude. You know, I like when he takes a vocal on an album. You know, supposedly John wrote this. It's an early like John Lennon song, real old. I think,
Mhm.
he wrote it in like '59 or something like that.
Like 63.
Yeah, but I think he first wrote it in '59.
Oh, okay.
I was reading about that.
Yeah.
But then I think they were going to record it in '63.
That sounds right.
They didn't. So they ended up recording it for this album. But yeah, Ringo sings it. It's got that upbeat Ringo vibe with most of Ringo's songs. It's a great song, man. I like it. You know, and I love Ringo, man. He's such a character, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna put it at number 13 though. So
and that song suits him just perfectly, you know.
Perfectly, man.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's like those country songs that they did early on with him, like on Help and on Beatles for Sale, where they were getting into that country vibe for him.
Yeah, Ringo always gets the upbeat like songs, you know, pretty much. You know, so they're fun. They're fun songs, man.
Except for "Good Night" off of the White Album.
Well, yeah.
Good night.
There are always exceptions.
Yeah, except for that one. My number 13. I know that this is ranked a little low. I know this is going to be higher than other people, but I never gravitated towards this song, and that's Michelle.
Wow.
Yeah, I got that number 13. I just didn't get into that French. I didn't know what he was saying. But what I did like about the song Michelle, and what's so important on this album were the backing vocals. The ooh, ah,
Yeah.
it's so great, man.
So many great backing vocals on this album.
Yes, dude, and it just comes so alive. And they place everything so perfect where it's not just the backing vocals, but it sounds prominent in the places that they put them. It's just strategized very well where they place different things on this album. So that's my number 13. It's going to be Michelle. Number 12, Mike.
Mine is What Goes On, of course, written by Lennon McCartney and Richard Starkey, also known as Ringo Starr. It's a cool song. Ringo was always able to take those like very country type songs and just sell them, kind of like Act Naturally. He was always able to do that, you know. And Ringo's just cool dude. And I mean, some of the not just on this song, but the whole album, some of the stuff he's doing on the drums is just pretty crazy for the time when you look at
absolutely
what they were. I mean, it's like when this album come out, 65, I think.
65.
Yeah, I mean, damn, you know. So
Ringo was one of those drummers that really brought like fills, like rock drumming fills, like
right
to like rock, man. Like nobody was really doing that like before the Beatles, man. You know.
I mean, I would like to see him. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it if you've got Hulu. They have that McCartney documentary with Rick Rubin where they isolate all of Paul's bass tracks, which was amazing. Paul's an amazing musician. I forget how many instruments the man can play. But I would like to see somebody do that for Ringo, just so they could show some of the drum patterns he does. Because, I mean, he don't really get the credit. I mean, I guess when you're in a band like that, it's like somebody's going to get overshadowed, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes Ringo kind of gets overlooked a little bit, but I know that may sound crazy talking about a Beatle, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's because of the songwriting got to such a high level that took all of the emphasis, I think.
Yeah.
And he really wasn't a big part of the songwriting for the most part.
Yeah, and because Ringo probably wasn't, he wasn't like it wasn't the songwriter that Lennon McCartney or even Harrison.
Oh, no.
You know, they helped write his songs and stuff. So,
But his drumming is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, you hear the bass and the guitar in front of that, and that's what the music press went towards, and then the drums were always last. But the thing is that at that time, drums were just used to keep beat,
Yeah, time.
and this was just, I mean, just pushing the music forward.
He did
Going
creative
along
stuff
with
with
the
it.
bass that Paul was playing, that was, outrageous at that time too, because sometimes his bass playing was the lead in parts.
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah,
several instances on this album.
yeah, it just so much. And the thing is that we need to remember that this is 2 years removed from Please Please Me, because Please Please Me was in '63.
I know, dude.
2 years later, they had completely changed. It's just amazing.
Mhm.
I tell you what, man, you want to see Ringo. I mean, watch that Shea Stadium footage, man, when he's like, dude, he's playing like almost like a punk drummer, dude. I mean, he's just fucking,
Bashing those skins,
he's
dude.
just slamming those fucking drums. And I understand he probably had to do it so the other guys could hear because, that crowd drowned them out and they had trouble hearing each
But
other.
remember, that's before the Marshall amp.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the
And they're
reasons
playing a stadium.
boring. They were like, we can't hear each other. We can't even, it just got to where they were like, fuck all this, man.
Before, the big amplification, none of that was available, man. They were getting piped through the PA system there.
Right.
Imagine that. And it always looked like Ringo was going to break his drums, man. Those drums were wobbling. That was just,
I mean, he's just like with the fucking hi hat, and he's just, and the one unorthodox thing about Ringo too is that he played righty, but he always led his fills with his left hand. Drummers are going to know what I'm talking about.
Those backwards fills.
Yeah, when you go around the toms, like I'm right-handed, so my right hand would be on the hi hat, my left hand would be hitting the snare, and then if I go into a fill, my right would hit first, but he always led with his left, so it's kind of like a backwards almost kind of, and it kind of gave him his sound, man. He has a very unique drumming style, very unique sound, man. So
it kind of sounds backwards with his lead. When most drummers would end with that, he started with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So creative drummer, man.
Yeah. All right,
sure.
Fabio, what's your next one, man?
Number 12, right?
Yeah.
My number 12, we talked about this a little bit, was Think for Yourself. We already talked about that and John's cool organ part there, but I love Paul's cool fuzz bass on that song too.
Oh yeah.
And that was another thing, with going back to kind of the production on this, because they were trying all different things. And this was the first time Paul switched to his solid body Rickenbacker as opposed to the hollow body Hofner that he always used prior to this. And that became his bass primarily for recording going forward.
Yeah.
It had that thicker sound and they could do this stuff like this cool fuzz bass line on here. And the other thing, another thing unique to this album for them and pop music in general is that this is also when they got a lot more serious with their lyrically too. And that kind of comes through on this song too. You look at this as kind of an early protest song before all the real stuff started happening a few years later.
Wow.
But just the kind of the message there of think for yourself. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's my number 12.
Yeah, and we really don't think about Vietnam in 1965, but it was really cranking up in '65. Everyone always thinks of 68 and 69, but in 65
right,
it's very intense. Just that the country wasn't really paying that much attention to it. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure they were, but you know what I mean? Not to the point where they were protesting out on the streets and they were calling for a change in '68. In '65, the Beatles were already, you could hear that protest in them.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Very true. All right, Al, number 12, man.
Number 12, I'm going with I'm Looking Through You by with Paul. He wrote it about Jane Asher, his girlfriend at the time, and I love the song, but as far as like in the context of the other ones, it falls more to the bottom for me. I think I'm more I think I geared more on this album. I think I gear a bit more towards the Lennon songs. I feel
Yeah,
they're a bit more stronger for me. Not to say that
I agree.
McCartney's not writing shit, but I mean, like, for me, I think the Lennon material, his songs are a bit more stronger on here for me. So that's why I think couple of Paul songs are a little more towards the bottom for me. But not to say again, this fucking album is awesome. So that's like taking, well, that diamond is a little bit smaller than this one. You know what I mean? So it's a carat less, but it's still a beautiful diamond. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
but yeah,
Yep.
I'm looking through you is gonna be my number 12. So
But I can see what y'all are saying because during this time, the Help, Rubber Soul, and Revolver really had strong John Lennon compositions throughout.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
They really did. It was maybe like during Magical Mystery Tour and Sergeant Pepper, where John kind of took a back seat and let Paul do whatever he wanted to do because was probably a little burnt out for everything that he was doing for these three albums. Man, I mean, he was writing some heavy stuff.
yeah,
Really was for that time,
yeah.
and his love for Dylan really does show
Hmm.
on these
Oh yeah, they
albums.
looked up to him, man. Yeah.
We're at number 12, right? My number 12. I'm gonna go with it. It's already been spoken. Um, the word. The word reminded me a lot of Wait. When I think about this album, there's a lot of songs that are grouped together in 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 batches for me. So the word is going to be my number 12. Even though I do love the ending when they go through the outro and Ringo's just going at it and along with that organ, which that organ was introduced because it'll be used a lot in pop music, but not for another year or two. So that was also introduced by the Beatles.
A lot
So
of people copied stuff off of this one.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, a lot. And I'm about to get into one that's copied that people really don't talk that much about, but I'm going to try and shed a little bit of light to that, and I hope that it gravitates. Number 11, Mike. What do you got?
For me, it's Wait. Again, good song, solid song, but killer filler. It's not one that it's like I said, it's a good song. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing it because I sure as hell am not. It's a good song, but also I think even the guys from what I read felt like some of the subject matter was a bit dated, but they went ahead and threw it on the album anyway because they could have another track. Like they were kind of, if you notice, this is also the album where the subject matter kind of changes. It's not all about boy meets girl. Some of it's well, like George Harrison's "Think for Yourself" and I'm looking through you. Yeah, it's about a relationship, but that's about because we've all been there. I really like that song because of the lyrics, but yeah, back to Wait. Like I said, it's a solid song. I like it, but that's why it's kind of more towards the end of my list.
Interesting. All right. Go for it, Flavio. What's your next one?
Um, I know a couple of you. I don't know if I have this ranked the highest. If everybody already said this one, but my next one's "What Goes On." So, yep, good old Lennon song for Ringo, and yeah, good. Like we already kind of discussed it quite a bit. The country feel really suits Ringo. I know that was his preferred style. He had a lot of fun with that, and it's a fun song. So I enjoy it.
I think his debut album was kind of a straight up country album where he pretty much employed the best of the best in Nashville session players to play in his debut solo album as
Okay,
well. Yeah.
sounds right.
All right, Al.
Oh, and I also like
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I also like the little rockabilly kind of lead guitar stuff George is doing in that song too.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
Really had a good feel for that Carl Perkins kind of playing.
yeah,
He idolized Carl Perkins, which Carl Perkins is one of those guys from the Sun Records that people don't talk about that much. I didn't know that much about him until I started listening to the Beatles and they started covering a couple of his music. So, I'm sorry, a couple of his songs. So that's how I got introduced into Carl Perkins. But then I figured out, but then I learned, oh, he does blue suede shoes. The real Blue suede shoes. I get it now. So, all right, Al, what's your next one?
I'm gonna echo Metal Mike with Weight. I'm going with that one. I think it was recorded for the previous album Help. They held out for, then they put it on this album. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a good song, but again, it's gonna fall in the lower half of the album for me. The killer filler, I guess. Or, I guess like Mike was saying. I mean, most bands would probably kill to have a song like this.
Right.
But we're talking about this within the context of the Beatles. So it's, what are you going to do, man? You got to rank them somewhere. So that's going to be my number 11, man.
Yeah, it pained me to put this on number 11 because I do like this song. And pretty much, I think that John Lennon kind of foretold episodes or the TV show Dateline, because I'm going to go with Run for Your Life. You always see Datelines, it always has this kind of stuff going on. But I'm going to go with Run for Your Life. I thought it was such a cool song, kind of an evil track to end this album with. And then I was thinking another feature show we could do, Al, is ranking the last tracks of Beatle albums. Because when I was thinking about them, I was like, dude, there's that one, the way Revolver ends, the way Sergeant Pepper ends, the way the way Magical Mystery Tour. I mean, there's some really good, strong songs that they end with. So we'll touch on that and think about that later. But yeah, I'm going to go with "Run for Your Life" on number 11. Such a good song. That's number 11 for me. All right, we're cracking into the top 10. I didn't know I forgot how many songs are on here when I was writing things down. Like, damn, there's 14 on here.
Yeah.
They're short ones, short but good.
Yeah, short but good. Yep, you're right about that.
2.5 minutes, man, and they're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're done because this
pretty much
because it's a 33-minute album with so much packed in there. It's crazy. All right, Mike.
You Won't See Me. I dig this song. What's funny though is they said that McCartney was kind of going for a very Motown like flavored or feeling. He was inspired by the Motown bassist James Jamerson.
Yeah.
And the verses are even used the same chord sequence as the Four Tops' hit. It's the same old song, which I love that song. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I like this, which was titled by its writers, the Holland team, in acknowledgement that they had already used the same pattern in their composition. I Can't Help Myself. So there you go, man. Everybody borrows from everybody, even the Beatles. So, I think it's a cool song, and again, it's also him talking about his relationship with that actress, Jane Asher, man. I guess things were kind of going south around this point between them. And, it's a cool song. I dig it.
Yeah, that the chorus to that is just fantastic, man.
Yes.
It just, time after time, just so good. And Ringo's just going at it, dude. Just
yeah.
So good. All right, what's your number 10, Fabio?
Another one I think we've touched on a little bit is The Word. For me, is number 10. Also, kind of going back to what do we talk about? The Think for Yourself again here, kind of lyrically. I think they kind of precursored the whole Summer of Love psychedelic thing with this song. Because that was, a couple years, year and a half, 2 away to 67 before a lot of that really started. And I think you feel that a lot on this song, kind of the start of their psychedelic period and Summer of Love, all that good stuff. But yeah, I like it lyrically. The cool harmonium part by the George Martin actually played on the song, and great rhythm section from Paul and Ringo here. Really good on that.
Yeah, and the word. I mean, John said that's what the word is. It is love. Just that they hit it 2 years before everybody else.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good song. All right, Al, number 10 for you, man.
Number 10, I'm going to go with the one you picked before, Run for Your Life. Great harmonies on here, though, man. Like, I love the harmonies, the 3-part harmonies, and You know, again, a great song. You know, now we're like really starting to get, you know, we're getting up there now. So,
Yeah.
you know, at number 10 now, it's like you make a strong, I mean, the songs are already strong, but they're just getting stronger and stronger now for me. You know what I mean? So, and again, like, you know, the the Lennon stuff for me shines on this album. So, you know, this is so the number 10 is gonna be Run for Your Life for me.
Awesome. My number 10. I think y'all have already touched on this one, but think for yourself. And when I was hearing this album again, dude, if y'all listen to the verse, they toned down the guitar down. It goes, like when the verse is coming out. I mean, it's boom, 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 boom. It's lowered like kind of a like a doom kind of sound on the guitar. It's brought down very low. It's amazing. But think think for yourself for a number 10 for me. Number 10.
Good song, man.
Yeah. Number 9, Mike.
All right, man. George Harrison, If I Needed Someone, his probably the first song he wrote for his then girlfriend, fiance, Patty Boyd. Really, really cool song. I like it a lot better than Think for Yourself. This to me is definitely a precursor to things like Something and Here Comes the Sun and you know when George really was, Taxman, when he was really finding his stride.
Oh, dude, he started really like,
especially like around Revolver, Sergeant Pepper. That's when George was firing on all cylinders. And I think this was kind of like, I like this song a lot better than I do the other one. So there you go, man.
Yeah, yeah. And if you remember the concert for George, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers play this song, and man, they do it so well. And
They sure did.
Do it better. What it was? It was the authenticity of the love for George that you could feel them playing. So amazing. So great song, man. Great song. All right, Fabio, what's your number 9, man?
Same. If I Needed Someone. Yep, right, same spot as you. Love his 12-string Rickenbacker guitar riff he's got going on there. It sounds so cool. The production on it's great. Yeah, good song. That's mine.
Yeah. And another thing that I had read about was that the Beatles were doing more than just playing the songs. They really had their hands in the production, into the cover art, into everything. This was their baby. And John, as quite has been saying, he knew that this was a good album. He felt it while they were making it, that he knew that this was going to be a good album for them.
And I've also read that this is kind of where George Martin started to feel the kind of splits between him and the rest of the band, where he was going to start becoming less and less of, have less input than he used to have with them. So because they were really, really getting into it. Another interesting, you mentioned the cover art. This is the first album of theirs. It doesn't say the Beatles on it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're like, we don't need that shit on there. They know who we are.
Right.
Hey,
have to see where the fuck we are. That's all they need to know.
Also, like how they had it where it looks all distorted. Like, wow, man.
Also, precursoring the psychedelic era they were getting ready to enter.
Which apparently, if you watch Beatles Anthology, was an accident because they had like a photo projector with slides, and what happened is it was like leaning on something, and one of the legs when it did that, it caused that effect, and they were like, "That's how we want the album cover."
That's perfect. Perfect.
That's it right there, man. And then, of course, I was also going to point out with this song, If I Need Someone, I kind of forgot, this was kind of the beginning of some of the Indian classical music that George was influenced by. That was, the very, very beginning of it, but it's there. And cool song.
And then even the font on Rubber Soul is kind of what everybody copied after that for a lot of the concert posters of the late 60s.
That's true, like that fat of
balloon letters almost.
Yeah.
Wow,
there was so much that there were such pioneers that you don't even think about it because it was such a staple in our fabric of society. But then you never seen it until they had done it.
Right.
That's great stuff. And like y'all were saying about George Martin was doing less and less. I think it was either Ringo or George were saying they were really gelling at that time. At that time, they knew who they were, and they were feeding off each other.
Their confidence was in an all-time high.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, wasn't ever. All right, what's your next one, man?
Number 9, right? So I'm going with "Girl." I believe this was the last song written for the album.
Recorded.
Recorded. Yeah, recorded. So, yeah, John had not met Ringo yet, but this is kind of like his ideal girl. What he would find in Yoko. The type of girl that he liked. So, good song, man. Love it. So that's my number 9.
Cool. My number 9, I'm going to go with "Driving My Car," the way that the album starts off with. I would have put it higher, but there's so much stuff in front of it. But dude, that bass throughout
Oh,
that,
dude, that bass,
Yeah.
yeah,
and,
very cool song.
and and again, this is 1965. No one was talking about bass leads and dude, you can just, dude, that's the first thing that you hear on this album when you put down the needle or put in the CD, the boom, 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 and then the lead in. It's a great
Yeah.
track, man. And I think he played this at the Super Bowl, right? Am I right about that?
Oh yeah.
He did do "Drive My Car," right?
Yeah. He starts off his concerts with this song.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
He
it's
did
like
when I seen him.
it's a staple of his a show opener. Yeah, it's the opening song usually. I think most of the times I've seen McCartney he open up with this song.
It's a great opener.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
I can see why it was the opening track because it boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
already. You get everybody up that quickly. I've seen them twice. I just don't remember what they opened up with. But dude, when you go see Paul, you feel this electricity in the air. It's
Oh,
a
dude.
very weird feeling, man. It's like a feeling you've never had before because it's weird. It's just an odd feeling. But my number 9 is gonna be "Drive My Car." All right, Mike, what's your number 8, man?
My number 8, "Run for Your Life." I don't know why, but this song, it's so unbeatle like lyrically. It's like very dark, basically saying, if I catch you cheating, you dead, woman. I'm gonna kill the guy that you're cheating with, and which is again, man. I mean, you see lyrical content like that, like with Jimi Hendrix with "Hey Joe" a few years later, but man, I bet there were some Beatle fans at times like, whoa, because he was very dark song for the Beatles, and maybe that's why I like it as much as I do. But I think it's at one point in time, it wouldn't have been ranked as high as it is now. But after listening to this for a while, it's like, you know what, man, I dig this song. So it's my number 8 as of now.
Yeah,
I think he actually ripped some of that from an Elvis song.
Yeah,
he did actually.
Yeah.
He sure did. It was what was the song? "Baby, Let's Play House."
yeah.
And he even took one of Elvis's lines.
Yeah.
Early
They
singles.
kind of built around it.
Lennon retained a line from the Presley track, "I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man."
Yeah.
The lyrical theme obviously is jealousy, betraying an overly misogynistic quality that Decker, I guess that was the record label, finds at odds with the Beatles' approach to making the album. I guess that was a Beatle historian. Yeah, it's definitely different. It's not your typical Beatles track. But it's definitely, it was, obviously the Beatles later on would, in my opinion, do a bit more darker lyrical content, especially with a song like "A Day in the Life."
Yeah.
But
and they sure were hiding. And this was no hidden message of what the song might be about.
No, it's like smacking you in the face with it,
word
man.
for word, line for line.
Yeah.
This is what's going down. This is what's happening.
If I find out you're cheating on me, man.
Yeah. Fucking. And it's
Yep.
so odd that a band this big will write a song like that and just say, fuck it, let's put it on there. That's how much power they had. They weren't gonna, at that point. Nobody could tell them anything, and most of the time, that's a downfall of a lot of bands.
I mean, the only time I could think of where they got into some shit was when John said the whole, well, we're more popular than Jesus.
Yeah,
and people really freaked out over that, especially, I guess, your Bible Belt and Midwest, which I'm from the Midwest, but I understood what he was trying to say. He wasn't saying that the Beatles were better than Christ. I think what he was trying to say is how fucked up it is that they're more popular, that people would rather go see them than go to church. I think that's all he was trying to say, you know?
Yes, he was trying to say how fucked up it is that they shouldn't be, but teenagers and people were thinking
that Beatlemania became a religion all into itself is what I think he was trying to say.
Yeah.
I mean, even Pantera mentions it in the album becoming God size. When you get to be that level, that big, a rock star. And you got to remember, man. I mean, there's always been famous singers, and yes, Elvis was a rock star too. Don't get me wrong, but the Beatles were they were fucking huge, man. I mean, they were everywhere. I mean, it's before my time, obviously, but believe me, people that were there tell me all the time they were everywhere.
Yeah. Imagine being there at this time, because they're still everywhere. I mean,
yes,
they still are. But just imagine in real time. Holy crap, man!
Yeah.
And remember, this was all like in a 6-year period.
I know.
Everything, all of their output is in like a 6-year period. Can you think of anything from like 2018 to now that means anything?
Dude, Ozzy himself even said that, he goes, as a kid being a fan and going through it, it felt like the Beatles had been together for fucking ever, but they hadn't. Yeah. I mean, they break up, what, in 1970?
Yeah, early 70.
Now, obviously, if you count when they formed and when they were, slugging it out in all the clubs, which is where they became such a great live act, playing in Hamburg and Liverpool and just sweating it out. And, that's why it always grinds my gears when I'll hear people say, oh, they're the original boy band. No, fuck you. All right. That pisses me off. And I'll tell you why. Boy bands are nothing but, and I mean, there's even a documentary on Netflix where this guy, it's all a prefabricated package. You got some fat dude. And man, when I watched that documentary, I'm like, I knew he was fat. I didn't know, but I would say that some fat fuck that, they audition, okay, and they pick the guys, and then they go, okay, you be the sweet one. You're going to be the bad boy. You're going to be the funny guy. You're going to be the pretty boy. You know what I mean? And the Beatles were not that. They were 4 young kids that grew up together. They even knew Ringo before he became a Beatle, and they had a dream, and they worked their fucking ass off and made it, and wrote their own music. Like, no, they're not the original boy band, and that's insulting. And again, when I say that, I'm not, because I know like the Monkees were prepackaged. I actually do like the Monkees, but I also know that the Monkees was a fictional band that kind of became real. Because those songs became so. I mean, Mickey Dolenz talks about it all the time. He goes, "It was very bizarre to me when I had to learn how to play drums, and then I'm playing live in front of an audience. And to me, it was like, holy shit! It's like Leonard Nimoy is now a Vulcan for real." And I love that line, but it was kind of true. It's like, because they, don't get me wrong, I love the Monkees. I think they're great. And John Lennon said, I think you guys are the greatest comedy act since the Marx Brothers. I used to watch that show as a kid, and he didn't mean that as a put down, because that's what Mike Nesmith said. See, John Lennon fucking gets it. Why doesn't anybody else? Because they would get a lot, oh, you're just Beatle hat wannabes or whatever. And they're like, it's a fucking parody, guys. It's no different than Spinal Tap. And hey, by the way, I love that too. So anyway, I don't have anything against some things being prefabricated, but to call the Beatles the original boy band is a fucking insult.
Yeah, it really is, especially when John and Paul would songwrite together in the school bus.
Right.
From school, when they were 14.
Come on, man.
Yeah, thank you. So, they're just one of the, well, to me personally, they're just the best of all time.
Dude, they slugged it out in Hamburg, bro. I mean, I
heard.
Yeah, dude. Like 8 shows a day, dude. Just popping speed and shit and just playing.
And a lot of other great bands followed them doing it just that way, including Black Sabbath. They were playing in Hamburg. They do 7, 8 shows, 9 shows a day, man. Like, because the Beatles paved the way. They paved that road.
Yeah. And that became famous for, that's where you cut.
All your up and coming bands
made
it. Yeah, they went through there, made it.
Yep. Where are we? Number 9? No, number 8.
Yeah.
And you said you're number 8, right, Mike, or not yet?
Yeah, Run for Your Life.
Oh, yeah. All right, Fabio, number 8.
My number 8 is I'm Looking Through You. I think I came up already once before, at least, but I really like this song. I love the 2 contrasting sounds you get from it, between the kind of acoustic folk rock that you're getting through the verses and then the heavier electric R&B instrumental thing that goes on in between. I thought that was really cool, contrasting style that was certainly unique at the time, and obviously still holds up. Really good song.
Yeah, good one. All right, Al, what do you got?
My number 8 is Michelle, a McCartney song, very French inspired. It's got some French lyrics in it. And again, so now it's like we're getting in the middle ground of the album for me. So this is where like every song really is fucking really, really great. And it is a great song, man. McCartney knocked it out of the park with this one, I think. So that's my number 8.
Yeah. My number 8, I used at my wedding. My mom and I danced to this song. This was our song that we danced to that I chose. I tried to find different songs. That's with my mom at my wedding. I listened to Genesis Mama. I said, no, I can't do that. But a Pink Floyd Mother, nah, I can't do that. I settled on In My Life by the Beatles. We danced to that, and those lyrics are so strong. And this is one of the strongest compositions that John Lennon wrote. One of his first ones that are so hard hitting about life, and nobody was writing like this at that time, man. They just weren't. And I know that this is low. I know, but number 8 is going to be In My Life. Because believe me, I've been looking at this list going, what else can I make number 8 and move this one up? But I couldn't do it. So In My Life is number 8. All right, Mike, what's number 7? Lucky 7.
Michelle. I know he sings in French, but I just think it's a catchy tune. I've always liked it, and I'm not going to add much more to it than that. It's just a really cool song. I've always liked it, and over the years, it's just went up higher. It used to be lower, but now it's gotten higher. So
nice. All right, Fabio, what's your number 7 on this Rubber Soul?
Mine is Drive My Car, the great album opener. Love that dual lead guitar intro, just everything about it. I mean, this is also, you get some humor in the lyrics here. It's I think it's kind of a funny song with from the woman's point of view, and the harmonized vocals on this are great throughout the verses. Even it's kind of a dissonant note structure there, so I think it sounds really cool, and it's just a rocking song, and I can see why Paul would want to open with this at his live shows. Unfortunately, I have never seen him before.
I think he's going to be making some rounds soon, I think.
Yeah, man, if he comes around by you, man, go see him, dude.
Yeah.
All right, what's your number 7, man?
Number 7, I'm going with Nowhere Man. Another great Lennon song. Kind of sometimes, I feel myself like I'm a nowhere man. I have like no direction sometimes. I need my wife to kind of hone, or my daughter to kind of, come on, get back on track, Dad. Let's so this kind of song reminds me. I get a little lazy.
I feel you.
I go nowhere sometimes. You know what I mean? Laziness creeps into my life, and I got to snap out of it, but I think this song's kind of fits that for me. But I love the track, man. Great song. Great 3-part harmonies on here. So it's such a trademark of the Beatles, man, the harmonies. Whenever I hear a band with great harmonies, it's always just reverts back to the Beatles for me. Well, they kind of took that from Beach Boys too, a little bit of that. So
definitely
could be, but they put it in. But they put it in a way in like such a rock context. The 3-part harmony. The harmony vocals. That became like a modern rock thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and it's still used today. We still love back in harmonies. The Eagles used it.
Yeah,
to their strength.
I think the Eagles are like the masters of it, really. Pretty much. So that's my number 7. Nowhere, man.
My number 7. I think I have this one higher than anybody else. When you read publications about Rubber Soul, you read about the Byrds and Bob Dylan and about the folk rock, but number 7, What Goes On, one of the first country rock songs ever, which the Byrds will touch on in a couple more years with Graham Parsons, that they start to turn into a little bit of a country rock, which you hear that they founded it. But man, Beatles were doing that first. It might not have been a whole album, but there was a song here, and Honey Don't off of Beatles for Sale, and then the one off of Help, and then this one, What Goes On. This is just a perfect country rock song, period. It's just great, and I love it, and that's why I have it so high. I think it's the another song that breaks barriers in another type of genre that they're creating.
Absolutely.
So What Goes On is number 7 for me. All right, Mike, number 6. Sace.
Number 6, Nowhere Man. I mean, this is one of you guys, I think it was you, Al, that had mentioned that this is very much a Lennon album. I do agree with that. I mean, there's certain Beatles albums that, that's a Paul album, that's a John album, And I think with this one, definitely it's more of a Lennon album. That's not taking anything away from Paul, because Paul's got some fantastic stuff on here too. But Nowhere Man, which he was actually talking about himself, it was, again, kind of a precursor to Day in the Life and some of the other things that John would do later on. But yeah, Nowhere Man, I mean, it's just fantastic song, lyrically, musically. He said that the song reflects the existential concerns raised by his experiences with LSD, and like I'm a Loser and Help, his self-loathing. It was during a time he later called his quote Fat Elvis period.
Yeah.
And it's really the first Beatles song to completely avoid the whole boy-girl relationship. So once again, this is an album, and then this song's an example of that, where they're, also using a literary character in the Beatles' work, because he's talking about his feelings, but his of inadequacy, but he's doing it in the third person. Just a really, really cool song. Yeah, I love it. Nowhere Man rules.
It's so odd that you bring up I'm a Loser, because it wasn't a hit. But when I first started listening to it,
was with me, man. When I heard it, I was like, "Oh, this is a great song."
Yeah, I was like, he's calling himself a loser, and then you start to hear of him portraying himself, even though he's this big rock star, he's got issues like everybody else. Golly, you're like, this dude, and again, that was in 64, late 64, dude, that's nuts, man, that they were writing like this.
Yeah.
Just mind-blowing. All right, Fabio, what's your number 6?
My number 6, I guess I'm the last one, I think, to hit this one, Run for Your Life. So I go from the great opening track on the last one to the great closing track here. And to what you were saying, Andy, about we all kind of touched on the great country rock of What Goes On. This really is another country style running through this track as well. And you get some cool slide guitar work from Harrison on here. near the end of the song, so that's adds to that country feel. And
really
even though it is a very dark lyrically song, it does have that country feel running through it musically. And yeah, I love this song. We've talked about this one a lot, but yeah, it's very. I'm sure hearing this in 1965, it would have hit even harder.
Yeah, but then if you think of lyrical themes of country music in the '70s, this hits home, man. I mean,
Yeah,
this is down home country like lyrics, the storytelling, the
absolutely.
the murderous thoughts. It's just nuts. And then it starts off that track does start off with like a country jaggly acoustic guitar.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and it kind of runs throughout in the background
yeah,
too.
yeah, it really does. Man, the more we talk about this album, the more I'm falling in love with it, and the more amazing you feel about this band. You know, every time you think you've heard it all about the Beatles, you do a podcast about them, and then you have different points of views, and you're like, man, they really are this fucking good. You know, they are. All right,
Yeah.
what's your number 6, man?
Number 6 is the George Harrison "Think for Yourself." Again, you guys touched on it. The Paul McCartney's fuzzed out bass, great on there.
Yeah.
It's fucking incredible. I mean, McCartney's just such a he really was ahead of his time too, man. With like, bringing the bass to like kind of the lead. I mean, because that was more of a jazz thing, man, where the bass was kind of the forefront or the leader of like, they to bring that into like like Mike said, like James Jamerson, Motown. Yeah, McCartney was very influenced by Motown and by him, and he was bringing that kind of like rock bass like to the forefront of like rock music, like where it could be a lead instrument. You know what I mean? Not many people were doing that. I mean, you had the Who, John Entwistle was starting to come up. The Who, like by '65 now, the Who's like coming in to play here. You know what I mean? So they're getting known, things like that. And Entwistle was a monster. We all know that. But McCartney was no fucking slouch, man. That guy, amazing bass player, and that's why so many people have named him an influence. Just for bass playing, So, and that, that iconic violin bass, man, the Hohner, is the Hofner. Is that what it's called? Right.
Well, the Rickenbacker's what he used on this one.
He used that and the Rickenbacker, like, and I mean later on, I think it became like didn't it have like psychedelic like painting, like colors on it and things like that. It became like one like that. But yeah, the Rickenbacker, it's the Beatles kind of bought the whole Rickenbacker thing in too, like because the Byrds, using that, the 12 strings and all that kind of stuff, man. I mean. Yeah, they were bringing out those sounds in there, man. It was just amazing, what they were coming up with. It's like they took a little bit of things from here and there, but then they were like, using, with George Martin too, coming in there and just the way they utilize the studio. Again, like I'm a production guy. I love like that. It's so much what's missing now in music, man. Nobody uses studios anymore. They just dial up the sounds on their computer. They don't use the ambience of a room. They can just dial up let me get a little more ambient or whatever. It was back then, man. You used the studio was an instrument. Where you placed a microphone, what size room you fucking put the drums in, or whatever, man. It was an instrument unto itself, and they were like, it
was organic.
The creativity they were coming up with, man, like the way. Manipulated tape and you can get a phasing effect while the tape is running, you kind of squeeze the tape a little bit, like you get this phasing effect, and who the fuck was like thinking of this shit, man?
Yeah, it's wild.
Maybe drugs were helping out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then also Buddy Holly with overdubbing and double dubbing.
Yeah, going back to Buddy. I mean, that was the '50s, man, when it was only like what. You played live to like really tape. It's
you would overdub everything. I mean,
you pretty much what you have like maybe 2 tracks. If that.
Make it bigger.
Yeah. You
And
know,
I don't know if y'all saw the Beatles Let It Be documentary on Disney. A lot of people, it's boring, dude. But you got to see how they did shit in the
It's
studio.
amazing. Yeah.
It's
oh, dude, that
amazing what they did.
was
The
One,
amazing, man.
partnership and the friendship of a band. It was just
one of the things I loved about it too is here you're hearing these like iconic classic Beatles songs, but as they're writing them,
Yeah, dude, it's like
Wild.
literally a fly on the wall. Like, as a music fan and a Beatles fan, I loved it, man. I was
how many times watching that did you wish? Did you think to yourself, damn, man, I wish like the original Van Halen like did that maybe in the studio,
I,
or
exactly.
like Black Sabbath when they were recording.
yeah,
Like,
or Zeppelin or any of the great bands, Rush, any of them, ACDC even. Fuck yeah, dude.
but the
Hell
fact that the Beatles did this like in the '60s was like pretty like way nobody fucking did that, man. You know,
Great
and for a
quality.
long
too.
time, a lot of that footage never saw the light of day until now.
yeah.
You know,
And they
it's-
did such good work with it. And what I liked about it is the remaining Beatles, Ringo and Paul, were okay with it. They
Yeah.
had nothing to hide. You know, it's whatever y'all want to do. And man, I don't know if y'all felt the same way I did of how John wanted so badly Don't Let Me Down to be on Let It Be. I mean, dude worked on that constantly. And
That's
you
a
always
great song too, man.
yes, and you always hear from the critics that John Lennon had checked out during Let It Be. I don't know about you, but I saw that dude there every damn day from
Mhm.
morning to night, working, working, working. I don't know where they got that from, saying that he was absent most of the time. He was not.
Yeah.
And they said that Yoko Ono was always hanging out. All their wives were always hanging out. Everybody was there. Why couldn't she? I know that people have problems with Yoko Ono, but dude, that was a love between those two that was, I mean, those two truly loved each other, regardless of what people think about Yoko
yeah.
Ono. John,
I'm not a fan, but he adored her, man.
yeah, and her the same to him.
Yeah.
So so that was a really good true love story. But we should make a movie about them too. All right, so is it my turn? Number 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with Girl. Another great John story, another great songwriting, and of course, the end with those dueling. Is it dueling acoustic guitars? Is that John and George or just George? Does anyone know the bam, bam, bam? I mean, are they dueling or is that just one?
It's just George, I think, hitting that lower register.
Okay,
Yeah, but I love that too. You're 100%
I
on there.
I love that part. I've always loved that part since the first time I heard this. But again, another great John songwriting credit where you know
Huh.
it was kind of a dark song. Again, it was another dark song, and they put it in the middle of this great album, and it's fantastic. So my number 6 is going to be "Girl."
Yeah, John always had the darkness, I think, He's a
Oh
bit
yeah.
more he's a bit more the cynical, darker guy, whereas McCartney was more, kind of more the upbeat. And that yin and yang, man, just fucking worked, man.
Yeah,
Those two. So
yeah, really good stuff. Number 5, Mike.
Drive My Car. It's just a totally great rock and opener, like you said at the very beginning, and then that fuzzy bass. And I just love Paul's vocals on it, the way he's singing, and ask my girl if she wanted. It's just a cool song, man. One of those songs that you can kind of walk down the street to, and I love it, man. Drive My Car rules.
Yeah, and what a
Can't
great.
really add any more to it because we've already talked about it. So
All right, number 5, Fabio.
I'm gonna also say "Girl" here for number 5. Yeah, I love this song too. You hit the nail on the head with the acoustic guitars there. It sounds great. I mean, I think John was doing the rhythms, but then the lead part you had George doing his thing, and I love that. It's very European sounding, kind of I don't know, old world Greek, Italian sounding guitar work there.
well, it says right here, it was an acoustic guitar part played to sound like a Greek Bazooki. I don't know.
There you go.
Suzuki.
And also another thing I liked about it was the high equalization that they say that was applied to Lennon's vocals over the courses to capture the hissing sound as he drew breath, which was an effect that also suggested he was inhaling marijuana.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always wondered what that noise was.
Yeah, it's him going like, you know, yeah.
And then just using great studio production there to get the sound to really pop through there. And
Yep.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's so crisp. It really
Yeah.
is crisp production. That puts all these important features that should be in the background and the up front. That makes it such an important part of the song. All right. Where are we at? Number 5?
Yeah.
Mike, did you do your number 5? You did, right?
Yeah, I just did drive my car and then
Oh yeah, Fabio had
Hero was Fabio's.
So-
Al, what's your number 5?
So yeah, I was saying before that it's very much the sound is very much more for me dominated by Lennon. But then now that I look at my list, the next 2 songs are McCartney's songs, so they're pretty high. So that just goes to show you that he was writing great shit too for the sound for me. But You Won't See Me by McCartney. Again, about his relationship with Jane Asher. He wrote a couple of songs about her, so I had to do with her. But great song. I mean, I always love this song, and that's my number 5. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I love McCartney's vocals.
Oh man.
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a great song. My number 5, I'm going to go with "I'm Looking Through You." Where did you go? I thought I knew.
You.
Yeah.
What did I know? Just again, when other bands were singing about lovey-dovey, these guys were talking about the realities of a relationship, of how it breaks down.
It's not always fucking, roses, man.
Yeah, and so sometimes,
Not always a Disney cartoon.
Not always holding hands.
yeah, and staring into each other's eyes. Sometimes you argue, and sometimes you just don't see eye to eye. And I thought I knew you, but what did I know? The only difference is you're the one down there.
It's
Damn!
it's like the early Beatles. I mean, there's still some cynical stuff in their early stuff, but it's like, I want to hold your hand, and and then she loves you and all that. It's kind of like, yeah, they're kids, man. They're in love and stuff. Now we're getting into like, all right, man, we've been going out for a few years now, and shit's starting to break down, and they're really I guess their life experiences are really, really starting to come through in the music. You know what I mean?
That's what songwriters do.
Yeah.
We all have favorite bands and favorite musical artists or songwriters, and you follow them through their life. You follow them through divorces, and they sing about this and they sing about that. You follow their path through life by the albums they put out.
There's been artists that I felt sometimes spoke for me almost. Like, wow, that guy knows exactly how I feel about that situation.
And that's the beauty of rock and roll. That's what people don't understand about rock and roll. It is so bare. It is so down to the heart and soul. It really is. All right. Did I do my number 4? Number 5? Yeah, number 4, Mike.
I'm Looking Through You. Can't really add much more to it than just, this is a song that I definitely have identified with, because I've been in some pretty shitty relationships, man. So, and then, in fact, one of the last ones I had, got really toxic, really bad. And now it's like, she was always running me down. Oh, nothing I ever did, no matter how hard I tried, was ever good enough.
Shit.
And now it's like, well, I'm here and you're down there. I mean, yeah, it's just kind of, and maybe it's kind of petty of me, but it's like, because like I said, she used to put me down a lot, and
Oh, man,
yeah, and one of the things that she always made fun of me was about my weight. And now I've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And she's gained a lot of weight. So I'm like, oh, well, who's fucking fat now? Who's the loser now?
Fat.
Who's here? I'm the infection preventionist for this building, and I'm making a lot more money than I ever have in my whole life, man. Not that I'm rich or anything, but
right.
So who's the failure now? Who's the
right,
loser?
You became successful with hard
work.
work.
Right. I'm looking through you. And you're not there. Another thing she would always do is she would project, she would always talk about how fake everybody was. No, you're the one who was fake. You were the one that was a cheater, because go figure. It's another thing. She would constantly accuse me. That old saying, if the one's accusing is the one doing, so true, man. So yeah, I played this song a lot when we broke up.
Yeah.
Booyah,
it's always, that song always has that contrast of you. Now I'm up and you're down,
right?
And that's what you get again. The theme that it just wasn't.
Especially that one line where he's like, "The only difference is you're down there," and I'm like, "Fucking right, man."
Yeah.
There you go. That's
number 3 or 4? We're at
4.
4. No.
All right, my number 4. I think everybody's already hit on here, but probably the biggest hit for them off this album that paid quite a few bills for them for a few years is Michelle. I love this song, just classic. I love the lyrics. I think this is another funny song, kind of, to me. Just the whole doomed relationship due to just a language barrier.
Yeah.
Well, everything would be good, but we can't understand each other, so here we are. But yeah, another cool lower register cool guitar solo by George Harrison. I really like this song a lot. This is definitely in the top quarter of the album for me.
Awesome, good song. What's your number 4?
The last, the final McCartney one, which is the opener, "Drive My Car." Just we touched on it, and so it's been a staple at Paul's concerts, for as long as long as I've seen him. I think he's always opened up with this song. So again, it's just a driving song that gets the crowd going, and that's it, man. I mean, Paul wrote a great one, dude. And so that's my number 4.
My number 4 is kind of a dickhead song, but I love it. It's George Harrison's "If I Needed Someone." Love that song. If I needed someone, you're the one that I'd be thinking of. If I needed someone, carve your number on my wall, and maybe you'll get a call from me. But I might not. I don't know. But I'll think about you, maybe. I love it. It's so great. Again, lyrical things from 1965 that weren't even talked about. It was always wanting and wanting. George said, whatever. Maybe. So I love the lyrics to that. And the 12-string guitar on there. I mean, he just it might have been introduced by others, but Beatles would perfect it. Beatles would take it another step further, step further in everything. So that's my number 4. If I Needed Someone by George Harrison. Mike, number 3, man, Trey.
Yeah, we already did Quadros. Number Trey, Girl. I adore this song. I always have, man. I love the way John sings it. I love the like the Mediterranean Greek influences. I didn't even know what that was as a kid, but I loved it. And then later I was like, oh, so that's where John got it from. Just awesome song. Because we've all been that guy where you just, which is not a good thing. You put it, it's okay to treat your women good, guys. Don't get me wrong with this, but it needs to be reciprocated. If you're in a relationship where you're doing all the giving and they're doing all the taking and it's not reciprocated, if you put them on the pedestal, you're going to fall off that pedestal, if you catch my drift. But I've been that guy where you're just obsessed. Like, she can do no wrong. Her shit don't stink. You know what I mean? And to me, that's what this song's about. It's like she says she's the kind of girl that puts you down.
And
When
friends
your
are
friends
there.
are there, you feel a fool, but you're still like, oh, she's so because you're so
Yeah,
fucking
you're so
washed
funny.
and retarded.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're so retarded for that person
Yeah.
that it doesn't matter. When you look back, you're like, what the fuck was wrong with me, man? Like,
What was wrong with me? Yeah.
yeah, like why did I put up with that? You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing. Like when I was mentioning that relationship, I vowed after that I would rather be single and die alone than ever be in a relationship like that again.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the reasons why I dealt with it as long as I did is because of her kids. Her kids showed me a lot more appreciation than she ever did. And I didn't have the heart to end things because I knew if I did, I'd be literally kicking them out in the street. So I put up with a lot of shit for quite a few years.
Oh, man,
until the kids were old enough. And then it was like I punted her like a football. Plus, I had proof that she was cheating on me. So thank you. Because she was one of those people that had this, she could just make you feel like the villain. She was very narcissistic and manipulative. You know, she'd always make me feel like I was the bad guy, even though I'm like, I know I didn't do anything wrong. Not that I'm perfect, man. I mean, I fuck up, okay? And I'll be the first guy to look in the mirror and go, hey, mea culpa, you know? But yeah, but when you're that in love with the girl, man, you know, you'll put up with anything. It's like eating a bowl of shit and telling the chef he's an incredible cook. Can I have another helping of it? You know, and nobody's going to respect you when you're like that. And it's the greatest song as it is. I love it. But I'm like, yeah, John, I hear you. I've been there, dude. You know, like, yeah. Now, I'm not insinuating that Yoko treated John badly. I mean, I don't know, you know, but because he did say later that was kind of how that Yoko kind of became his ideal woman, or his idealized woman, I guess, you know, like she hit all those check marks for him.
Yeah.
Now that can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But they did seem to truly, truly love each other. He just needed, please don't sing, babe. and I'll just leave it at that. Go back to doing your art on your canvas that you're good at.
And then she loved him so much that when she kicked him out of the house and he went to go live on the West Coast, she said, "Why don't you take this piece of pussy with you, so that you can have for a while?" You know, you're like, "Oh, wow, thank you, Yoko." You know?
Yeah, right. I don't know, man, but I guess it worked. You know, I mean, he loves her. He loved her, man, to the very end. You know, and I mean. And I think with anything, it's like I've mentioned, you know, again, I'm not trying to make this an Ozzy thing, but, you know, like when some people want to bag on Sharon Osbourne, and don't get me wrong, she's done things that's irked me and made me scratch my head too. But at the end of the day, man,
if
she hadn't been in the picture, I don't know what the hell would happen to Ozzy. And other people need to realize that she's the one that introduced Tony Iommi to Ronnie James Dio. So you got to take the good with the bad, folks. That's all I'm saying.
Just as long as she's in the background, I'm all right.
That's what I'm saying. Right. Don't get me wrong. She irritates the shit out of me sometimes too. And she's done some things where I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, woman? But with that being, like I said, you got to take the bad and the good, you know, and I think I kind of feel the same way about Yoko, if that makes any sense.
All right, Fabio, number 3.
My number 3 is Nowhere Man. I love this song. I love the lyrics. Some of Lennon's strongest lyrics on the record. I really like that. Really love the production on this song too. John's voice sounds great. This was also the first time Harrison recorded with using a Fender Stratocaster, and you can really hear that bright tone there and his lead guitar work there. Really love the production on this one, and just the song in general, the lyrics, it's great. Harmonies, love it.
Yeah, and also the Ringo drum rolling, getting into the chorus. Dude,
there you go. Yeah.
Number 3. Wow.
Going with George Harrison's "If I Needed You." If I needed someone, sorry, I needed someone. Yeah, George, man. I mean, I love when George hits it out of the park, bro. I think he did with this song. I love the jangly guitar that he put here. That's very Birds influence, and I mean, and then that would go on and influence like Tom Petty and REM and like bands like that with the jangly,
Smashing Pumpkins, just
with the jangly like guitar and stuff like that with great sound, and
80s college rock, pretty much.
yeah. That's really it, man. I mean, I think George is a great. I mean, listen, man. I mean, it was the Lennon and McCartney show, but when George got in there with a couple songs, man, it was always great. I mean, that's why his first solo album, man, he just laid it all out there, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got tons of songs. Boom, here you go.
They were all great. They were all great.
I think it was the best solo album out of all them guys' first solo albums, man.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, he was like,
and it was the most successful from what I understand. So there had to be a part of them that wanted to go, ha,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, he was like, "Booyah!" right here, right in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Ace did to the rest of Kiss with their solo albums.
Exactly, man.
Exactly.
Or like he would call Paul in the middle of the night, and so what you doing? Who's number one? Oh, I am. That's right. You didn't have room for me. I only had 2 songs.
Yeah. But that's my number 3, man. If I needed someone, George Harrison.
Awesome.
Nice.
My number 3, y'all have already touched on it, but You Won't See Me. I just absolutely love that song. What I was talking about was that each song had a batch. And like this one here, You Won't See Me, was kind of a trilogy, if you will. I always grouped them, You Won't See Me and Think for Yourself and I'm Looking Through You. I batched them all together. They all have kind of the same kind of feel. So every time I hear those songs, it reminds me of parts 1, 2, and 3 is what those songs remind me of. And parts 1 being, of course, You Won't See Me. I love that song. That always grabs my attention. The repeat of the chorus at least 3 times, and like on the 3rd time, it's really emotional. It really does grab you, even though you've already heard it. It's still strong. So that's my number 3. Number 2, Mike. We're going with number 2.
Oh man, actually ranking all these was really, really hard, but yeah, I went with my number 2 is In My Life. It's such a beautiful song. Again, John, being very self-reflective of his life. And again, man, totally different from anything they were doing before lyrically. Like he's talking about, missing, some are dead and yet some are living, and, people that came in and out of his life. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful song, man. And I've always loved it. So yeah, John was on fire during this period. No doubt about it.
I'm so ashamed that I had that song so low. especially when
I was scratching my head at that one, Andy, but
especially when I have What Goes On over it.
Actually, I wasn't scratching my head. I was going to reach through the screen and kind of smack you.
Sometimes you go through different feelings in different times.
He's my co-host. I could do that to him. Anyway.
Well, let's be honest. We could do this again in 10 years, and our rankings would probably.
It'll be different, man.
Yeah,
of course. All right, Fabio, number 2.
Number 2 for me is, gosh, am I the first one here? I think Norwegian Wood. So that's my number 2. This is such an original song, with the obvious being the Middle Eastern sitar playing by George Harrison.
Who else?
Crazy. That was copied so much in the years that followed. But it's just great. It goes in the way they incorporated it into being such a great song. Just outside of that, incorporating with that English folk style 12/8 rhythm that they've got going on with the timing. It just worked perfectly. Again, the lyrics funny but dark. Hey, I'm going to burn your house because our hookup didn't work out. like just at the very end of the punchline. Oh man, I'm getting ready to hook up with this chick, and then what? You're not here. Yep, see ya. I mean, funny but very dark, and yeah, the music, a true original.
Yeah,
Perfect. Number 2 for me.
man, John was really going through some demons. That he said, you know what? Instead of acting on this, I'm just going to write about it, and I'll sing about it. I'll get it out of my system. All right, Al, what's your number 2, man?
Well, I'm echoing Fabio, man. You know, Norwegian Wood, man. I mean, just think about how many people have actually covered this song. You know what I mean? There's been countless artists that have done this song. One of my favorites is actually Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush did a great cover.
Oh
of
yeah,
Yeah, they did.
you know, and I love Frank Marino, man. One of my favorite guitar players, one of the unsung guys. You know, and well, you know, he's influenced a lot of people. It's, you know, but he doesn't get talked about as much as Page and Beck and all
As he should be.
as he should be. I mean, he's like, I mean, you know, not to get off the Beatles here and get on a Frank Marino tangent, but I was lucky enough to see him in concert once, and I mean, he played 3.5 hours, man.
Wow.
And at the end of it, man, I just had to scrape my jaw off the floor. He was that fucking good, man. I mean, like, as the night progressed, he just got better, and it was like almost just like, oh yeah, I'm warming up, man. I'm warming up. You know, by the time it got to like hour 2, man, he was just like doing shit. Like I was like, dude, I want to hang up my guitar, bro. I don't even want to. You know, it either inspires you, or I mean, you know, or you could just be like, dude, I'll never be as good as this guy, bro. You know, and it's just like you have to accept it. You know, there's just guys that are that fucking good, and he's one of them, man. I mean, dude's just incredible, and it sucks that, you know, because he was going to tour like right after like the pandemic was loosening up. He was going to do a tour, and then he had to scrap it. I mean, he came down with like some sort of undisclosed illness, man. I mean, now like he's just been kind of laying low and stuff, and I'm afraid, like, you know, like one day I'm going to see the headline like he's gone. You know what I mean? But I don't know what he has, man. Nobody really knows and shit. But he stopped touring. But I was like, fucking, I wanted to go see him one more time, and I wanted to hang around. I wanted to meet him, man, because I don't know. He's just such a. I remember when I first got Frank Marino Mahogany Rush live, the live album from like '78, and I was just fucking blown away by that album, man. Like, it was one of the live albums that needs to be in everybody. If you're a fan of guitar playing and just great rock music, I mean, that's a live album that should be in everybody's collection. Back to the Beatles, back to Norwegian Wood. So yeah, John Lennon, man. You know, to me, like, this is fucking John. Is genius, man. You know, bringing George in with him, with all those, you know, the Ravi Shankar like kind of influence and all that.
I understand that was George's idea, man.
That was George's idea, man. I mean, so George really needs to be talked about here too. You know what I mean? So he really bought. I mean, without him, man, we wouldn't. I don't think they would have progressed like they did. You know. So,
yeah, definitely.
So that's my number 2, Norwegian Wood.
Yeah. Before I start talking about it, well, my number 2 is also going to be Norwegian Wood. This bird has flown. Now, Al got me into Mahogany Rush and to Frank Marino. I never got into him until Al had mentioned it. I was record shopping and I found a couple of his albums. And when I forgot which one it was, but I was going through the song that says, he does Norwegian Wood. So I brought it home. And that was, I think it's on side 2, I think. Anyway, I flipped it over just to hear that song to see how he did, because I was.
You're such a Beatles fanatic. You want to hear it.
Yeah.
You want to hear his take on it, you know?
And his take was completely different, but also a wonderful tribute at the same time. It was done so well. And what other band is going to let the guitar player say, "Hey, let me try the sitar," and everyone goes, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And because it turned Norwegian Wood from a good song, because it would have just been a good song, it would have been somewhere number 7 or 8, but the sitar jumped it up to one of the best tracks
ever
because of the sitar, because those are sounds that we weren't that familiar with, and it goes so well with the storytelling. You can see this happening. You can see him and this girl with wine in front of a fireplace and going to go lay down in the
You,
past.
you
And
can smell the wood of the walls.
yeah, just smoking it up with her, and then her start laughing. Says, "You know what? I gotta go to work in the morning." He goes, "What the fuck, man? What do you mean you gotta go to work in the morning?" You know. So you know, just a great story, and it's like a little over 2 minutes, and all this is happening. All this is happening.
Brilliant.
So number two, Norwegian Wood. This bird has flown. All right, guys. Here we go. Number one song on Rubber Soul. Go, Mike.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Norwegian Wood,
What's ever left?
flown. Can't really add any more to it than you guys already did. It's just an amazing song about Frank Marino. See, he did it the way I'm a big believer that any artist that does a cover tune, just like any director who takes on a remake, make it yours. I don't like with a film, I don't want to see the exact thing I saw before with different actors. You know, I want to see your spin on it. And I feel the same way about cover tunes. I want to hear your take on that song. I do want it to be different. I don't want to hear the exact same song that I heard before. You know, that's just with different singers and musicians. You know what I mean? I mean, if I want to hear that, I'll just go see a bar band.
With the original spirit, though. Yeah.
Right.
The Mahogany Rush album that's on is 1979's Tales of the Unexpected. That's
right.
The album that it's on.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, if anybody, I always point them to the live album first. You know, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, man. I mean, so many fucking Mahogany Rush albums are great, dude. I mean, you can just fucking cherry pick like any of them, man, and you're gonna fucking get great shit, man. I mean, I love that band.
Right on.
I discovered them kind of a fluke. Like I discovered them because I used to get like Guitar for the Practicing Musician, like with guitar magazines, and there was an interview in there with Zach Wilde when he first joined Ozzy.
Yeah,
it was around, and he name checked.
I have it back there.
Yeah, he name checked Frank Marino. Man, he was like, Frank Marino, listen to his version of Johnny Be Good from the live album, and that was kind of like. That was pre Eddie Van Halen, before Eddie came out with like Eruption. That was kind of considered the eruption of its time, like a year predating Eddie, man. Like the way he fucking soloed on that, like people were like, dude, he's like one of the fastest fucking guitar players like out there. You know what I mean? And then Eddie came along, obviously, and introduced the tapping. But Frank Marino was like in that time period, in the mid to late 70s, man. I mean, he was fucking a force, man. You know?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that Guitar Magazine interview because that's the exact.
You remember that, right?
The Zach Wilde one that got me to listen to Marino, but also I actually haven't listened to as much Marino. The other guitarist that Zach mentioned in that article that I got very much into was Al Di Meola.
Yeah,
and because he mentioned both Marino and Di Meola in that article, and Di Meola is the one I ended up getting more. I guess maybe I just found more of his stuff readily available in the record stores. But
yeah,
Mahogany Rush was not easy to find in the record stores back in the day. It took a bit of digging.
But Al, you can find, and he's another one that's just wow, like holy crap! How does not everybody talk about this guy?
Yeah,
yeah. I like both guitar players, but right now I'm just in the beginning stages because I think I only have 2 Al Di Meola records and then like 2 or 3 also Frank Marino. So I'm just getting started. I'm loving what I'm hearing. So that's great. All right, we're at number 1.
So Mike, you picked
Norwegian
Wood is what? Okay, it's number 1. Okay.
Fabio, what's your number 1, man?
All right, my number 1 is "In My Life." Just one of the most classic songs. Not only my favorite song on this album, it's one of my favorite Beatles songs, period. Probably in my top 5 all time. And again, here's where we get to just them doing great production tricks here. That keyboard solo that George Martin did in there is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, So Lennon, asked, he's like, hey, I want something that sounds like Bach and
like a harpsichord or
something
right?
Baroque style.
Yeah.
And so he recorded this piano solo at half tape speed, so that when he sped it up to normal speed, then it sounded like a harpsichord.
Yeah.
So just great, again, just genius production techniques in there. Again, we talked about the great nostalgic lyrics, looking back on, the days before he was famous. The other thing is it's the only song really on this album that touches on a happy relationships. All the other relationship songs, which is the majority of the album, are pretty bad, pretty sour, pretty dark, dying. This is a happy reflection of love and past relationships, pre-fame life. It's feel good song, but very nostalgic. And yeah, love the lyrics, love the production. And like I said, the genius with the quote harpsichord that's really just a double time piano solo, but it sounds great. And this was another one where you get that Motown influence here. Definitely, I wouldn't say stole, but very, very influenced from Smokey Robinson on this. I think they've even talked about that with the Tracks of My Tears. You really get that feel with some of the melody in there, musically.
Yeah, well, they were always influenced by the Motown sound. You can hear that in the first two albums, especially their second album with the Beatles. They do a lot of Motown, even girl group Motown. So, yep.
Well, even the title of the album too was kind of making fun of themselves. The Rubber Soul, like, hey, we're like the fake soul guys. Like, we're not as good, but we're gonna give it to you anyway.
Yeah,
we're gonna give it a try, and boy, whatever. Yeah, geez. All right, Al, what's your number one song on this album?
In my life, man. I still maintain. Well, that harpsichord thing. Later on, one of my favorite bands, and Andy knows I love the Smithereens, being a New Jersey guy. Yeah, on their 11 album, they would kind of nick that harpsichord sound because they were so influenced by the Beatles for one of their songs, I believe called Blue Period, on that album. And great song if you ever get to check out Smithereens. They do a couple of good Beatles covers albums too. They do like the early Beatles stuff, and then they do another cover album called Besides Beatles, where they do like B-sides of the Beatles and stuff like that. I mean, I love that band. I miss Pat Denizio. He passed away a few years ago, but I got to meet him, and he's, he was such a Beatles fanatic. He loved the Beatles, and he loved Black Sabbath. Those are like the two bands, and he loved the girl groups from like the 60s, and they're very much a 60s influenced band. If you ever really hear them, I mean, they used the Ricky Talkers and all that stuff. Anyway, going back to In My Life, I maintain that this is the greatest recorded ride cymbal on an album, man. Like the way Ringo hits the bell of the ride cymbal, the way that chimes and rings out. I don't think there's ever been a better recorded ride cymbal like on an album than that. The way he counts out, and then he does like the little triplets on it, and it's fucking genius. So and lyrically, as I've gotten older, like when I hear the lyrics of this song now, it hits more home when you're a little
absolutely.
You're becoming middle aged and you've had life experiences and all that. It just lyrically, man, it's just like wow. And John wrote this like when he was young, relatively young still, so
he lived a lot.
I guess the
He
experience
had already lost a few people by then, point. So I mean, it's like,
I mean, the way the Beatles were going and progressing, and they were progressing at the speed of light. So it's like they were experiencing things that we don't experience in our whole lifetimes. Right. You know what I mean? So, the fact that Fabio said the best for 6-7 years, it was their period, and then boom, they were done. They had what they had to say in that
it's kind of like,
and
I get kind of irritated, like when I'll see people like slag on somebody, like David Lee Roth. Oh, he looks old. He looks this. He's that and that and the other. And I'm like, you know what? That motherfucker has done and seen things that our lame asses have only read about in books.
Oh yeah.
The man is a living legend. Like, shut your fucking pie hole. What the fuck have you done?
Yeah.
You know,
What do
like,
you know?
shut up, man. Like, you have no room to criticize anybody, especially somebody like that. Like, I'm just like, you know, he's done things that you only dream about in a wet fucking dream.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like, geez, people.
He was definitely, you know,
that's the one problem with the internet. The internet is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking to you fine folks.
But
Would never have known you if not for the internet.
yeah.
But man, there's a lot of dumb fucktard mouth.
I know there are, man.
Yeah. And the internet just gives them, they think they, and you know, and you know, they're saying shit that they would never have the balls to say to somebody's face.
Well, yeah.
Because they'd be picking their teeth up with broken fingers. You know what I mean? And it just kind of cracks me up sometimes, man. Like these keyboard warriors, as they're called.
Yeah.
You know, you're not tough, dude, and you're not high and mighty. Okay. Yeah. I mean, neither am I, but at least I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I live in my best friend's basement that he fucking subletted as an apartment. But that's okay. I'm all right with that.
But the thing is that it's okay to have opinions about different music, but there's people out there that just go overboard and think that their opinion is better than yours, and you're like,
exactly, and it's not. You know, I mean, like whether you like a band or not. Like there was somebody a while back had posted something about Oasis. I'll be the first to admit I'm not a big fan. Part of it's dude's voice. His voice just, I don't like it. That being said, though, I know they have their fans, and I respect that. You know what I mean? But he said something like, well, in the U.S., nobody got it except me. And I guess it's because, you know, you basically insinuating that only intelligent people appreciate Oasis. And I just said, dude, intellect has nothing to do with it. Intellect or lack thereof has nothing to do with it. You know, one person's musical masterpiece is another person's musical monstrosity. Okay. It's all subjective and it doesn't really matter. There is no right or wrong answer. And you can be the smartest man in the world or the dumbest motherfucker. It either grabs you or it don't. And we all have limitations. Okay. So it's like, I don't know. It really kind of irked me. I'm like, bro, really? Come on now. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's cool that you like them, but just because you like them and I don't, doesn't make you any more smarter or dumber for that matter to me or than me.
A band that you like and a band that I don't, you know?
Exactly. Right. And you know, there you go.
But the song In My Life, how many times can we think back of the almost hundreds of people that we've met throughout our lives that we'll never see again and haven't seen in years, but they played a very small, for a small period in our lives, they played a big role.
Exactly.
You know, for that.
Definitely.
Again. And we're never going to see those people again, but they might have even shaped kind of who we are, you know?
Well, and not only that, my friends that I have lost touch with, you know, like, and then we'll get back, you know, we'll like reunite or whatever. And they'll be like, man, I'm hey, bro, I miss you too. And I'm like, look, man, no matter where I go or what I do, if I don't ever talk to you again, I will always be your friend. That's just how I look at it. Just because somebody drifts doesn't mean you don't care. Life gets in the way. You get busy, you know, especially people who marry and have families and they have a lot going on, you know, and you don't always have time to be, you know, and sometimes your friends move away. Like one of my oldest friends, he lives in Florida now. I hardly ever see him, but that's still my boy, you know? Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I've never understood where, well, they're no longer my friend. Well, okay, man. Like,
that's not cool.
Maybe they're busy, you know? Now, if they're like deliberately blowing you off, that's one thing. Yeah. I do remember one dude told a bunch of us, well, he had outgrown us. All right, then.
All right, chill out.
And, well, he got late. He went nuts, and you know, thought he was cool for everybody. And now, like when I see him, he wants to be all buddy. But I just looked at him and said, well, hey man, you outgrown me. Remember? Don't be a pretentious dickhead, and I won't be a dickhead to you. You know, it's cause and effect.
Yeah.
Ain't that complicated. Yeah. Anyway.
My number one, I'm going to go with, I remember being a kid, and that was before I had heard Rubber Soul. I was at Woolworths if y'all remember Woolworths. And I
Oh
bought a
yeah.
cassette. I bought a cassette of the Beatles. Might have even been the first one. I'm still looking for another copy of it. But it was called the Beatles 20 Greatest Hits. And it had Nowhere Man on there. And I
Mm.
Nice.
love that song, and I still love Nowhere Man. It's still to the point that I remember the first time I heard it was on that cassette. And now I see it on vinyl here and there, but dude, it's like hundreds of dollars. And I'm like, ugh, no way. But Nowhere Man is my number one song. Again, talks
It's a great
about
song.
life and what's going on in our lives, and sometimes we need a little bit of help, you know.
Sure.
And it's a great track. I love the guitar work on there. It's those were sounds that people hadn't heard before in 1965. Just think those ears were perking up when they bought this album, because there's a complete departure from Help, and that was earlier that year.
Yeah.
It was earlier that year when they made that. So my number one is Nowhere Man.
It's
All
amazing
right.
how much. It's amazing how much material, man, they put out in that short amount of time.
Oh, it's unreal. It's
Yeah,
unreal.
it really is, and people are amazed. Not People are amazed that don't know the Beatles like that we do. They probably think that they were together for over 20 or 30 years. No, it was 7 years that they put out recorded material.
And dominated.
Yes, and it wasn't just because they were popular. It's because they were the best. Their albums were the best out there. Every year when they released an album, it automatically became the best album of that year, regardless. And it still is today. All right.
And hey, and let's be honest, some of those albums that gave it competition were great fucking
yeah.
records that are
Yeah.
all in our collections,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
come
And
on.
in fact, I was going to go back and hear albums of 1965, and I probably will do that.
Right on, man.
Sometime this week or next month.
Well, I got to get going, guys.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they need my help at work. So
Okay. We're done anyway here.
I know I'm wore out, man. I can't. I just told him. I said this isn't sustainable, guys. I can't keep doing this. I just feel like I have no life these days.
Yeah.
I'm constantly working, like I'm doing 2 jobs, literally. I'm working the floor and I'm doing my IPC stuff. But the floor stuff is kind of overtaking my infection prevention stuff, and it's just getting like I'm just like I don't want to quit, but things got to give, man. I cannot keep going like this.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for your time.
But there is one other thing I want to say. Earlier, we were talking about stuff we were spending and listening to.
Yeah.
There's a new band. They're a doom metal band from, I believe, New York, Brooklyn, New York, called Castle Rat. They're really, really cool. Got a female vocalist who looks like Red Sonja, wears chainmail and everything. And
I like it already.
And they got an album. They got an album out. You can get it on Bandcamp right now called Into the Realm. Just came out. They are badass.
What's the name of them?
Castle Rat.
Yeah, I heard them. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they're awesome, dude. I've been playing them on my radio show. So that's one band that I've been listening to a lot. They're amazing. So check them out, man.
Red Sonja and doom metal. You got me perked up already.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If you want, I'll even send you a link to their Bandcamp, man.
I'll look them up, man.
All right, cool.
Well, I wrote it down.
All right, you guys take care. Keep fighting the good fight. Stay metal. And
love you, Mike.
Yeah,
love you guys too, man. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll be in contact.
Definitely. Take care.
Thanks a lot, man. Take care. And thank you so much, Fabio. We really enjoyed your first time here. We really enjoy your expertise. Hopefully,
me too.
And join us again with a different topic. I will be in contact with you and see if that's something you want to do with us.
Yeah, come back, man.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Had fun.
Great to meet you, Fabio.
Likewise.
You guys have a great night. I think, Andy, I haven't picked the topic for next week yet, but I'll get in touch with you and we'll figure it out.
All right, man. All right. And thanks a lot for everybody out there who watched us. Stay tuned for next week. And thank you so much for the panel. Thank you for all y'all stories and y'all specs that were wonderful. I will talk to y'all later. Thank you, guys.
Cheers,
All right.
guys.
Bye, man.
See ya.
Bye.